All right, everybody, welcome back to Unscripted from my studios, powered by the Spot Athletics. Gosh, I couldn't be more excited about today. My guy is in Israel. It is 8 o'clock at your time. I don't even know what time it is. It's like not 8 o'clock here. So, man, why don't you introduce yourself? Let's just roll, man. Let's go.
Yeah, thank you so much for the time. My name is Tamir Goodman. You may remember me as the Jewish Jordan.
The Jewish Jordan, man, and we're going to fill in a lot of that gap after that. But I remember you, and so we reached out, we got connected, and gosh, I'm so excited today. I watched a YouTube video, a documentary, a 10-minute documentary about your story, and man, I remember because I was a Sports Illustrated guy before magazines weren't cool anymore. I read your story. I followed you on ESPN, and man, you were all that. So I don't even know where to start. Where do we start? Like, let's start at the beginning. You were the guy. So let's just start at the beginning, man. Tell your story.
Well, I grew up in Baltimore, Maryland, in an observant Jewish home. I was raised by my parents and my grandmother, who was a Holocaust survivor, and she survived 2 camps. So I was living with a living hero, and I fell in love with basketball. I fell in love with basketball more than an average kid. I just really loved the game, and I was just shooting around in my backyard one day when I was about 8, and I said, I think I want to show the world that you could get a Division I scholarship and play professional basketball without playing on the Sabbath. So for Jewish people, on sundown Friday until sundown Saturday, we can't work, and basketball is considered work. So it's very hard to get a Division I scholarship. It's a lot harder to get a Division I scholarship when telling the coach you can't play from sundown Friday to sundown Saturday. So that was the challenge. But thank God my parents and my family supported me, and I had a great coach and great love of the game. And by the time I was 17, I was ranked the 25th best player in the country.
So let's unpack a lot of stuff one thing at a time. To your point, most college Division I teams play on like a Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, and then Saturday or Sunday, right? So I'm a Carolina fan, as evidence behind me. They play on Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, or Saturday, Sunday, or again on Saturday, Sunday. That's how schedules roll out, right? And so let's start at the beginning. You committed to Maryland, who would probably play on a Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, Saturday, Sunday. Let's just go there. So you're one of the top Division I prospects, which a lot of kids dream about. You committed to a Division I program, and yet it did not align with your core being, which I want to get to later. Like, and honestly, let's just set the stage. Your core being is everything to you. So how did that work, man? Like you were on ESPN, social media wasn't a thing yet, but if it was, you'd have been all over the place on that, right? On social media. So let's just start at the beginning. Division I prospect, Division I opportunity. Let's go there.
Well, I think it started really in 10th grade because I was so excited all those years from age 8, 9, working with my coach, doing everything possible to get to that point. And I remember the first time my coach took me to meet a Division I coach. I was so excited for that moment. And the coach looked at me. I had my kippah on and my ritual strings, and I did not look like a basketball player at all. And my high school coach said, "Hey, coach, this is Tamir Goodman. He's probably going to be a Division I player one day. Wanted to introduce you." And the Division I coach wouldn't even shake my hand. Kind of like, "Why are you wasting my time showing me a kid like this?" So I walked away. I was pretty crushed. I was about to cry. And my high school coach, looked at me and he said, "Tamir, pick your head up." I said, "Why?" He said, "Because I promise you, if you keep doing what you're doing, he's going to recruit you one day."
Right.
And
right.
He was right. He was right. But by that point, I already had a lot of Division I offers 1 year later from that moment. And I went to my first invitational camp. I got there as a curiosity. I ended up leaving as an all-star. And by the time I was like November, December of 11th grade, I was getting a lot of offers in the mail every day. And then we got the call from University of Maryland on a Thanksgiving tournament. And they came to watch me play. I was playing at all boys yeshiva, only 60 kids in the whole school. No one's ever played college basketball in the school's history. And after one game, they offered me a 4-year full athletic scholarship to join. And it was a tournament. We won. We advanced. And coach said, "You know what? I already offered you the scholarship. I'm just coming back tomorrow because I like watching the way you play basketball." And that was an amazing moment. And I committed, but on one condition, that I wasn't going to play on the Sabbath. And originally they said they would do everything possible to accommodate me, and my life changed overnight. I had 700 media requests that week. ABC, NBC, CBS, Jerry Seinfeld did a full skit about me on Saturday Night Live. It's hard to even imagine how much media attention. And that's really how the story started.
And so the Sabbath, just for the audience, is Friday to Sunday. Is that right?
Sundown Friday to sundown Saturday, correct, for Jewish people.
Sundown Friday to sundown Sunday. So
basically, from sundown Friday to sundown Saturday, you work in instead of out. Meaning, like all week, it's like the world's kind of controlling us. We feel so overwhelmed. And for Jewish people, we just take a break and say, "You know what? For this time, we're going to work on our inner selves. What's our purpose in this world? We're going to have dinner with our family, with no phones, no TV, no distractions. Talk to each other, share time with our loved ones, share time with God, focus on why we're here, what we need to get better about, how we could refine ourselves, and kind of recharge for the whole week so that, we could kind of put ourselves in a situation to succeed where society's not dictating, what we can or cannot accomplish. We're not overwhelmed. We know who we are. We have our core base. We know how we need to react from every situation. We know what our intentions need to be. And it kind of just like brings you back to your soul, the Sabbath, the root of it. And if you look at college basketball and the scouting reports and the intensity, it just doesn't fit into the same energy of that time of week. And for me, my relationship with God, that was more important than playing for, I guess at the time, they were the number one team in the nation. They won the national championship. I would have been on that team.
So was that the, gosh, I'm trying to remember who was on that team.
Juan Dixon, Steve Blake,
Juan Dixon,
Chris Wilcox, Ron Baxter. Yeah.
Gary Williams was
Coach
coach.
Williams, coach. Yeah. I would have been the team I would have been on.
Man. Okay. So let's, there's like three things I want to unpack there. One, AAU, plays primarily on weekend, right? Was AAU a thing when you were playing?
Well, my high school coach did not like AAU. Right. He did not like the style of play. And so I played in total maybe 3 AAU games my entire high school. My coach would much rather me playing with college guys. Like, that's what we would do. Like, go to open runs with college guys. He's like, that's where you learn the game. So we spent a lot more time doing that than AAU.
And so it goes back to the belief I've been told by many major league talent coaches and other things, just be good. Like,
oh, yeah, especially
good.
basketball. The basketball community, things spread quickly. If you're good enough, they'll find you. That's what my coach always used to tell me. If you're good enough, you just focus on being good, they'll find you.
Absolutely. And so there's a lot of parents paying a lot of money to a lot of different places. And at the end of the day, if you're good, they'll find you. Sorry, That was a rant. All right. So my my next question was, where do you believe it started for you? Your steadfast, I'm not going to move. Like this is a hill I'm going to die on. Is I will not change who I am at my core in my belief.
Right. So, like I said, I grew up with a Holocaust survivor. My grandmother survived 2 concentration camps. Her parents were burnt in front of her at Auschwitz. When they came over, whether immigrants came over to America or to Israel, they were half dead. They lost their entire families. They were lone survivors with no money, no food, nothing at all. And they would just get little jobs. And on Friday, they would tell the boss or their owner of the company, wherever they were, I can't work on the Sabbath. And they would get fired. And they would have to find a new job on Sunday or Monday. You know, that's how Holocaust survivors eventually built themselves up. So growing up with somebody like that in your home, I just wanted to honor her and respect her. And if that's the self-sacrifice they went through for faith, I wasn't going to be playing basketball on that day, And also my father, I believe my father, blessed in memory, was the first Jewish lawyer to wear his kippah in court. One day when I was sick, my mother was at work and he had no choice but to take me to court with him. And I just remember sitting in the back of the courtroom. I was a young kid and the judge wanted to say something to my father. So he called him up and I was in the back of the courtroom and just seeing my father walk up to the judge and the judge was whispering something to him, but I saw my dad was wearing his yarmulke, his kippah, and he was the only person there wearing a yarmulke and a kippah. And I just said, you know what? I want to be like my father when I grow up. I want to be someone who knows who they are and they have a strong identity. And like everyone respects my father. And like, it's much easier to be nicer to people when you know who you are. And that's how I wanted to be. So between my family, I think that's where it really started.
I'm so interested in this entire conversation and you because we live in a Kardashian world. We live in a world of TikToks and Instagram stories and like social media, right? And I think we're influenced by, people that may or may not be in our best interest. And so that's why I'm so interested in your story because and I was interested back in the day. I don't know anybody watching this, listening to this right now is probably remembers you, right? Like, cause we didn't have all the social media we have. We had Sports Illustrated and maybe ESPN and all the places you said you were mentioned. We remember you, but now I feel like society and our kids especially, and we'll talk about your kids later, but we're very much influenced by the Kardashians. We're influenced by the 15 seconds we see on social media. And none of those, like to me, what you just told me is the fact that that's the hill you're going to die on is the choices and what you saw in your family, your grandmother, your dad, man, that's do you think that's lost in our society today?
Well, Aaron, listen, we're bombarded by so many reports, Instagram, news feeds, everything, that it just doesn't penetrate our soul and our mind the same way.
Right.
In other words, when I was a kid and I would watch an NBA game, that was it. You saw it, you had to put it in your mind and heart, whatever that move was, and then go in your backyard. And it was inside and you just worked on that move, whatever you saw, and it became part of you. It was deeply, if you read a magazine back then, it was part of who you were. Like my wife grew up in Cleveland. She would go to bed at night as a young girl listening to the Cavs games on the radio, and it penetrated her till today, her core. It meant more back then because it was less. Things were more meaningful. So I think it was easier back. I think the word is authenticity. Things were a lot more authentic. And when things are authentic, truth lasts much longer. It stays with you more. So I realized that like this was the core. If you have a strong core and identity of who you are, you could reach your dreams and also help and inspire other people, because if you have a healthy self-confidence, you don't have to ever be negative to other people. You don't need to make fun of other people. You don't need to be jealous. Like in Judaism, we always talk, make decisions from your godly side of your soul, which is, the side that's optimistic and positive. And, the negative side of your soul is, jealous and negativity and not positive thoughts. So, I had that growing up, and that's why, like, whenever I had to make a pivot, everything ended up being okay, and I was, a lot of challenges came along with all this media attention, and I had to transfer high schools for a second. For example, just my senior year, I ended up transferring to a Christian school, a predominantly African-American Christian school, but they were Seventh-day Adventists. They don't play basketball on the Sabbath either. And I was able to transfer to another school. I'm the only Jewish kid in the entire school, and yet I established relationships there till today where I'm super close, like family with the people from that school. And then I eventually go to Towson, who does change the schedule for me. And I room with a Muslim basketball player named Muhammad. Until today, Muhammad and I are super close. So, a lot of things that you mentioned the world today, that the world today may bring like contradictions or struggles or challenges. If we have a strong identity, it lets us like rise above a lot of the negative things that are influencing the world today, in my opinion. And I thank God that I grew up in that type of environment.
Well, I can tell you, we had, a number of technical challenges getting this together. We were on the phone, and you're in Israel, so we were making a national call. We were jumping through a lot of hoops to make this happen today, and the whole time you're like, "It's all good, man. It's all peace. Like I'm good. I'm good. Whatever you need." And gosh, man, we live in a world where we get really upset if our Starbucks isn't what we ordered. You know what I'm saying? And you know what I mean? I just, man, to have an overwhelming peace. And so I have so much respect for your position in life and how you approach life. And that was before we even clicked record today. I just have a respect. The more I've stalked you the last couple of weeks, man, you're incredible. And your approach to life is incredible. And that goes all the way back to high school, like being okay with, hey man, this is who I am. And this is who I am. This is my faith. And college, and this is who I am. And this is my faith. And I will not do that. Dude, there's so many people that we will waver with the changes of the wind in our faith. And that's myself included. I'm not condemning anyone. I'm saying I'm really quick to navigate, right? Dude, you have been a pillar in your faith since high school. And even in a time when it might have cost you what other people have chased their entire life, you stood steadfast. Man, I just have so much respect for you, man. I can't say it enough.
Thank you. Well, sometimes faith gets a negative reputation. And
right.
For me, it was the opposite. Because like if you play, for example, basketball, if you play for a higher purpose, right? It's not a negative, it's a positive. Because if you play well and things are going well, if you're a regular player, you might want to take a day off or 2 days off and say, you know what, I'm good. This is good. But if you're playing for a higher purpose, you're like, no, this isn't about me. This is about something bigger than myself. I got to get back in the gym. There's so much more to accomplish. And then if something's negative and you mess up and things aren't going well, and I've had a lot of that, you got to pick yourself up quickly because it's not about you. There's something bigger here. It's bigger than my own ego. I can't make myself a victim and feel bad for myself. I got to pick myself up. So when you have faith, you're constantly moving forward. Doesn't matter what's going on. So that's why I say it's like a positive thing. It's not a negative thing. People say, oh, if you would have just played on the Sabbath, you would have had a national championship ring.
Right.
That's
right.
true. That's true. That is true. But yet the ring is switched every single year. Every year there's someone else crowned champion, and they're great. And it's an incredible thing, but faith is timeless. It's infinite. You're attaching yourself to an energy that's above the constraints of this world. It's an energy that's everlasting, you know, and to me that is more important. That energy is more important than a goal that's falls under the confines of time and space type of thing, and it's kind of right now. So, you know, to me, it's always been a positive, not a negative.
And again, I go back to the same thing. So the hills that you'll die on, the mountain, the pillars of who you are, you know, which so many kids today don't. I think they're swayed by a lot of things, and we can get a whole nother conversation there. But you knew who you were, despite all the press and publicity and, you know, Sports Illustrated naming you something, right? You knew who you were and you stayed steadfast. But the challenges, as if all the things that you were already at your core saying, I'm not going to do any of these things, the challenges continued. So you had knee injuries, the university you picked, things like that. And so it's almost like these waves kept coming in your life. Like, okay, that's a big wave. I weathered it. Here's another one. Here's another one. So you ended up with some knee injuries, and basketball was your life outside of your faith. Like your faith is your core. And then there was that next layer, which was basketball. Can you just talk a little bit about that? Unpack journey for you?
It's the same thing. You know, basketball and faith to me were always one. Okay. My father, blessed memory, never, ever said one thing to me about basketball. I was fortunate enough to play in high school, college, and professionally. He never said to me, should have got back on defense. You should have made a pass right there. You should have shot that shot. Never. He came to every game he could, and he never mentioned one thing. The only thing my father ever told me was when I was about 9 years old, I hit a game-winning shot. It was a Sunday afternoon at a local rec league. And back in the 90s, there was this thing called raising the roof. When, you know, you thought so I hit the game-winning shot, and I raised the roof. And my dad gave me a hug, and we got in the car. He was just about to drive out of the parking lot, and he looked at me in the rearview mirror, and he said, you know what, Tamir, I'm proud of you. You hit the game-winning shot. But the way you reacted after the game-winning shot was not appropriate. You must always practice humility and know that God gave you basketball. And that was the only thing he ever mentioned to me about basketball in my entire life. Period.
Wow.
Ever. Wow. If I had to say something, he would listen, but he never commented on basketball. It was the only thing he ever said. Fast forward, I had a unforgettable freshman season at Towson, made history, able to play on a Division I scholarship without playing on the Sabbath. And unfortunately, I win the coach's award my freshman year. Unfortunately, my coach gets fired. New coach comes in, makes it impossible for me to stay there, assaults me in the locker room. And I got to pick myself up. It wasn't easy. I got to pick myself up. I get the call from Israel. You want to come over here to Israel? I've signed with Maccabi Tel Aviv, Coach David Blatt, who coached the Cavs.
Blatt's right, yeah.
He brings me over to Israel. I have a 3-year contract. I have 3 NBA guys, future NBA guys on my team. Everything's great. Then my agent calls me up, and he says, you've been traded. And I lost a lot of money, and on paper, it looked like the worst thing that could have ever happened to me. I get to the new team. I get a phone call from a local hospital that's right near the arena. Hey, there's these kids in the hospital. They read about you coming from America. Can you come visit the kids? I said, sure, I'd love to. The lady that's arranging it, she says, well, do you mind if I bring my friend along? I said, no. I meet her friend. She says, hey, I'm also 20 years old, and I moved to Israel. I said, yeah. Where'd you come from? She said, I came from Cleveland. I said, great. She's like, well, I had all these athletic scholarship opportunities to compete in college in America, but I didn't want to compete on the Sabbath. So I gave the scholarships back, and I moved to Israel to volunteer and study. And I said, you know what? We have the same story. Is there any way we could get married? And she said, yes. And 2 weeks later, we got engaged. And thank God now we have 5 kids. And that meeting my wife is the greatest blessing of my life. Okay. And again, do we want to tap into the finite energy in our life, or do we want to tap into the infinite energy in our life? And yes, it was hard to go through that at Towson. I wanted to play 4 years of college basketball. Yes, I wanted to play for Maccabi Tel Aviv and David Blatt and win a European championship. I would have been on that team too. But those are finite things. Infinite things are like things like love. That's an attribute of godliness. You can never love someone too much. Love always moves forward. So I lost all that, but meeting my wife was so much greater than all of that, so it all, when you zoom out and almost look at things the way God sees it, you realize how blessed we are and how perfectly everything falls into place. Yes, it hurt when the coach assaulted me, but if he wouldn't have assaulted me, I wouldn't have grown. I wouldn't have grown athletically. It strengthened me so much more, prepared me for losing my knee, it made me much stronger and ultimately brought me to meeting my wife. So it falls back to that same pattern of, how do we see things? How do we view things? Am I just a victim? Is there no divine providence? Am I just here to struggle? Am I just here to get hit over the head? Or am I constantly growing? Am I constantly moving forward? Am I constantly reaching my inner potential and what God believes in me and why God brought me to this world? It's up to us to see how we view it.
Wow. You're incredible, man. It's very ironic to me that today is March 1st. And 2 years ago today, I was driving to my first day at a brand new job. I left a situation that was very toxic for me. I was on my way to a brand new job, and I heard a song on a Christian radio station, which I never listened to. But anyway, that led me to a friend who's now become a partner in our business. To your point, man, when you scroll back, when we zoom out, we want to zoom in, I think is what you're saying. We want to zoom in. We want that micro. We want the details, man. When we zoom out, golly, it's incredible. And today I'm celebrating that 2 years later, I'm talking to you on this podcast and being blessed by the minute with everything that you're saying to me. I mean that genuinely, dude. It's unbelievable. Because of 2 years ago, and that's 2 years. I think we want to microwave everything. We want to microwave our faith. We want to microwave what God's doing in our life. And sometimes it doesn't work that way. What incredible story that you're living. It's seriously, what you just said is so blessed. I hope people listening are blessed like I am right now, hearing your story, man. It's amazing. It's incredible.
Well, thank you. I'm glad to be connected, and I'm a big fan of your work, and it's an honor. And life's about relationships. I love meeting people. Every single person that wants to meet, I say yes. And so many times I meet with people where you seem like there's no connection here. I'm in the sports industry. This person's in whatever. It doesn't matter. We're all one. The more diverse the world is, the more diversity it is, the more one we really are at our core. And I'm just glad to meet you, and I love your work.
Thank you so much. All right, so let's talk about next, right? So you meet your wife, you have your kids. What's going on in your life right now? Where is the Jewish Jordan today?
I'm in Jerusalem. We live walking distance to the wall. Everybody's welcome to come visit us, and we'll take you to the wall. I live with my wife and 5 children here in Jerusalem. I invented the first ever antimicrobial and moisture wicking basketball net called the Aviv Net. So we're nationwide at Dick's Sporting Goods in America, and it's just an incredible product. It drives the ball 11 times more than a standard net, so the ball's not as slippery during the game. And then we have advertising components, customization options on the net. So companies, if you think about it, when somebody scores, the greatest real estate is the net, not the top of the backboard where people are advertising, not the pole where people are advertising, but everything's watched on the internet now in slow motion. So companies now could, put their logo on the net, or families, or customizations. So thank God for that. I'm the director of sports for a fan engagement company called Fabric. The NBA, we were just using our technology at NBA All-Star Game in Utah, so that was really great. We had great success there, and it was so great to reconnect with so many people in the basketball community that I haven't seen in many years. And I do a lot of unity clinics through Fabric where we bring different kids together from different backgrounds. So we did one in Baltimore for the African American and Jewish community. We did one in Utah for the Mormon and Jewish community. I'm flying to Chicago on the 13th. Again, to bring together kids from the inner city. It's just all kids together through this game of basketball. Eddie Curry's joining me, my dear friend. And then we'll be doing it in Jerusalem this summer with Arab kids and Jewish kids and kids from the Ethiopian game, just using this game of basketball. To every physical thing in the world, there's like a holiness behind it, a spirituality. And to me, the spirituality of basketball is its power to unite people. There is no other platform in the world that could bring people together like the game of basketball, in my opinion. And it continues to prove that over and over again. And I believe that that is a big mission of mine in life. I'm a kid that grew up in an observant Jewish home, graduated from a predominantly African-American Christian school, roomed with a Muslim basketball player in college. And that has been such a blessing to me in my life. And I just want to give it to as many kids as possible. The greatest thing to me is to see at camps, where you bring kids together that probably would have never met. And now they establish long-term friendships for life. And, that to me is the holiness of basketball.
Your story, man, we almost have to do 2 episodes because I just remembered a very key point of your story. And I love everything you're doing now. And I think this all ties together. There's a story about dyslexia in there. And, but at the same time, what I want to really not gloss over is the fact that God's blessing you in the area He blessed you with future opportunities. So I want to make sure our audience supports you. So let's get all the links before we shut it down today. But that said, there's an area as if you didn't have enough challenge and things that you've fought through. Dyslexia, which, I was raised in the 80s and dyslexia wasn't identified yet. We didn't live in that community. We didn't live in a world where dyslexia was identified. You were just not good at taking a test or you were just not smart. So that was my story. I got a 13 on my ACT, as many people listening know. My daughter my youngest now lives in a world where thankfully, she's given more time on tests, and she understands who she is because it's been labeled. So let's talk about dyslexia, if you don't mind, for just a quick minute.
Part of my life. I have a new book coming out about this specifically to inspire kids, and a big part of my movie that's coming out is about the dyslexia. And I just want to give a shout out to my coach first and foremost, because I had a lot of scholarship offers, and the secret was that I wasn't going to be able to pass my SATs because of how severe my dyslexia was. Right. And my coach made me feel so good. And he used to go like this. I used to do my homework at his house. Just go down to the basement, all right, and write as you talk. And then I'm going to come down there and check it. And he made me feel normal. He made me feel okay. And that's how I started picking myself up. And then I started running camps and clinics already at that age so that I could pay for private lessons for SAT tutor who helped me. And I eventually did pass. But on the basketball court, basically when you're really dyslexic, so a part of your brain needs to work a lot more. It needs to compensate a lot more than a typical brain. And when you keep exercising that part of your brain, it simply allows you to see things differently and be more creative. And that was my superpower on the court. I remember coaches saying, we don't throw this type of pass in basketball. That's a dangerous pass in basketball. But eventually my coaches would say, for you, it's okay. Because I would just see it differently. Because my dyslexia was so strong, I would see guys open before they even knew they were open. And that was my confidence on the court. Basketball is all about confidence. So people go on the court, what do you bring into the court? I got on the court thinking, like, I'm going to get these guys the ball exactly where they need it and put them in a situation to succeed. And then my teammates loved playing with me, and I loved playing with them, and it was like so positive. So my dyslexia ended up being a superpower. Yes, 100%. I need help. I need help with reading and writing, and my wife has her master's degree in literature. So like I know when I need help, and thank God she's always there to help. But at the same time, I'm not a victim, and I know what my strengths are. And we find our identity through our challenges. Okay, God doesn't give us our challenge for no reason. There's some type of hidden blessing in there. There's some reason. And God knew that one day I was going to work with thousands of kids at camps and clinics. And the only way I could inspire them is if I had a lot of the same challenges that many of the kids that I deal with have. And then it brings us closer, and then I have a better chance of uplifting them. And,
Yeah.
that's kind of my calling in life through basketball now. And it would have never happened had it not been through my learning challenges, and also losing my knee at the height of my career. That
Right.
just made me a much more sensitive and caring person. So when I run into a kid now that says, I'm struggling with this or that, I say, I know what it feels like. I'm empathetic. I feel you. And if we don't have empathy for ourselves and for others, it's very, very hard to move forward or to help other people move forward. And my challenges made me, much more empathetic. So yes, if I would have stayed healthy, I probably would have had better statistics. And most people on the street would say, oh, talk better about my career, instead of, most people oftentimes think like, oh, he was, overhyped or whatever like that. And, but I don't know if that would have, if I would have stayed healthy, had I reached my potential as a person. So the challenges are my superpower, basically, because they help me reach my inner potential and what God saw in me when He decided to bring my soul to this world. And everything I do comes from that energy now. So all the products, the movie, the clinic, all this comes from this energy of hopefully trying to live out my potential and thereby helping as many people as possible.
I feel like God is honoring your faithfulness. We saw that throughout the scriptures, right? I feel like from an early age, I keep saying the same thing. You put a pillar in the ground, you put a stake in the ground, you put an altar where this is what I'm willing to die for. And man, your entire story is the fact that you have stayed so true in a world where we are so easily influenced,
Yeah.
especially a TikTok world. Like we're so easily influenced by social media and other things. Man, you have stayed. You put your stake in the ground. You said, "I'm going to be steadfast to this." And even when the storms came, you stayed true to what you believe. And I everything you just walked through and the challenges that came, like, I mean, those are the storms that came into your life, whether it was all the things we've talked about, dude, you have stayed firm. And eventually God said, okay, I'm going to bless you with a bride and, your kids and all that you get to do today. Those are all blessings. And that's what you've said, that these are, you've said that. I'm repeating back. I think essentially what you've said is, man, God has blessed you. It is never how we draw it up. It's
Yeah.
not, it's because it's not our story, right? I don't know.
Yeah, I feel so blessed every single day, every single second. The most important moment in the world is the moment that's happening right now. And there's an old Jewish teaching, I have it hanging up over my dining room table over here, where our rabbi says, I'm translating it, God, I don't want the world, I don't want the benefits of the world to come. I don't want the rewards of service. I only want to be with you, meaning the relationship is the most important part. And to me, it's just like living a meaningful life. The relationship itself is the greatest reward, is the blessing, being in that moment, because it's so alive. It's so organic. It's so who we are and our inner self. So, I just feel thankful to God for the relationship. I'm not looking for the rewards. I'm not looking for the benefits. The relationship itself is the greatest thing. It's like, imagine if you have courtside, someone has courtside seats to the Knicks, and you're going to be their friend just so they could take you to the Knicks game one day. Though that's not a real relationship. That's not a real. That's selfishness, and then you're losing out on this incredible relationship, which the relationship itself could be the ultimate blessing. And so I try very hard to look at the world that way.
it's not lost on me that your greatest asset was that you had incredible vision. If anybody doesn't know that, go back, watch YouTube videos, dude. You were making play. And back to your point about what coach would say to you, you were seeing things develop, and you're doing that now in your life as well. I feel like you still have that vision. You still are locked in, and it is a super dyslexia. It has a negative connotation to it. And at the end of the day, it is a blessing. It is a superpower when we understand how to use it the right way. You're using it the right way. And so, I'm so blessed by our conversation today. What are the links so everybody can find you, and so everything, the nets,
Yeah.
because and you and I our friendship does not end today. Like, we've got a lot to do. So, and God,
I'm looking forward to it.
God's making that connection, brother. He's making that connection. So, but for everybody listening, what are the links? How can they find you? How can they follow you? How can they support you?
Thank you. I'd love to be in touch with as many people as possible. So all my social media handles are my name, Tamir Goodman. To order, for our nets, they're at avivsports.com. For fabric, the fan engagement company, it's fabric.space. I'd love to be in touch with anyone if I could ever help in any way possible. My strongest strengths are in basketball. I'm blessed to connect people. I know a lot of people in the basketball world. And if I could ever help anyone, please feel free to reach out. And if you ever come to Jerusalem, please feel free to be in touch. And please look out for my book and movie. And if you could also get a net at your local Dick's Sporting Goods as well. But if you want to customize it, avivsports.com.
It's AVIV sports,
yeah, Aviv,
right?
Yeah, Aviv in Hebrew means like spring or refresh or renewal, because we've updated every other part of the game. Like, technology's taken over every part of the floor is different, the hoop's different. Everything is like performance enhancing. Like, no one would wear a standard cotton T-shirt, a serious player, to go train anymore. It's performance enhancing gear, dry fit, moisture reading. So everything's been updated except for the net. It's been the same old nylon net. So, why don't we have a net that's going to help you play better, keep you safer, and allow for customizations. So we're very excited about it, and thankful for all the coaches and teams that have been part of our net so far, and backyards.
Well, if this podcast has blessed you today, it's blessed me. I hope I have a feeling anyone that's really listened, I hope it's blessed them as well, and it should have, because it's an incredible story. Your journey is incredible. And so let's support as best we can, whether it's buying a net for your hoop in your driveway or your local high school or wherever. I don't know where this podcast lands. That's not up to me. That's up to God. And I'll tell you that one of the greatest quotes I've ever heard is a former boss of mine used to say, I control the inputs and God controls the outcome. You've made inputs in your entire life, man. You put in the work in the gym. You took all the shots. You've taken the fire. You've had injuries, and yet you continue to make the inputs. And God, He already has all the things you've mentioned, man. He's controlling the outcomes, and so I want nothing more for you, my friend. Gosh, this has been an incredible time for me. What a blessing to meet you and spend time with you.
Yeah, thank you. God bless you and your family and all the listeners, and definitely looking forward to being in touch.
All right, how big is the couch at your house? Because I'm probably going to come visit you.
You're more than welcome. More than welcome. We'll even have a bed for you.
Well, yeah. All right. So we already talked. Yeah, man, I'm coming. That's the bucket list for me. I'd love to just and have you take me on the tour and understand the history of where you live and your passion for the space and everything. Yeah. Anyway, all right.
We'll talk offline. Our camp's at the YMCA in Jerusalem, and it's in the heart of Jerusalem and walking distance from the wall. So
wow.
Let's make it happen. And actually, there's an old gym. I took Jay Billis there last summer to our gym. The the architect who built the Empire State Building in New York, took a boat over to Israel and built the most beautiful gym at the YMCA in Jerusalem. Same architect. that built the Empire State
Wow.
Building, built the gym at the YMCA in Jerusalem. It's so beautiful. So I'd love to show you around.
Well, may God continue to have his hand on your life, your family, your children, and especially continue to honor your steadfast faith is something I just can't get my head around, man. I'm challenged. And I hope I can be that way someday. Really
we're all growing every day and trying to reach our best. And by talking to each other and being there for each other, that's the best way to do it. So I'm glad to be in touch with you, my friend.
Absolutely. All right. One last time. Where are the links? Where can everybody find you?
avivsports.com, tamirgoodman.com, fabric.space, Tamir Goodman on any social media, Instagram or LinkedIn, anything like that, Twitter, anything.
Man, blow it up. Like, everybody just follow him, blow everything up. Give my guy a lot of support. Man, I appreciate you so much.
You.
Thanks for reaching out, brother.
God bless,
I appreciate
Aaron.
you.
Thank you.
All right.
All the best.